Hello and welcome to the lecture on gestalt theories as they apply to photography. Today's lesson goal is to recognize the gestalt principles as they apply to photography. The objectives that need to be met to fulfill that goal are as follows. Learners will be able to explain figure ground. Learners will be able to explain closure. Learners will be able to explain continuance. Learners will be able to explain common fate. Learners will be able to explain similarity. And learners will be able to explain proximity. After viewing this lecture, learners will be able to conduct individual research on gestalt principles. Learners will gather photos from the internet displaying the gestalt principles. And finally, upon completion of the prior objectives, the learner will be able to complete Paper 1, Details and Syllabus, displaying an understanding of the gestalt principles with 70% accuracy. To start things off, what is gestalt? It is a concept that attempts to explain why and how the brain interprets images and patterns. Gestalt is German for shape. It was developed into various areas of study such as neurology and psychology. The first gestalt theory we'll cover is figure ground. This theory deals with how the subject stands out or blends with the background. Figure ground plays with positive and negative space of subject and the background. It can be used with depth of field or f-stop settings on your camera. Here we see an example of figure ground. As you look at the picture of the apple core, notice how the subject, the apple core, stands out or pops from the background that appears to be out of focus. This is done by having a low f-stop setting on your camera. Next theory we will cover is closure. This theory deals with how the brain will complete an object or image automatically. The subject is often portrayed in a way where only a portion is visible. This is sometimes referred as framing or balancing in photography. In this example, we see a close-up of what appears to be a classic car. Note how initially you actually just view basic shapes, but the mind starts to complete the picture, recognizes it as an automobile, and even starts to construct the rest of the vehicle. Continuance is the next gestalt theory. Continuance deals with how the eye moves about a photograph. It allows a viewer to explore a photograph along a certain path, and it's sometimes described as lines of a photograph. In this example, we see some sort of modern structure. Note how the eye follows one line of this architecture, then zigzags onto the next, slowly revealing the picture as a whole. The law of common fate is the next theory. This theory is one of the more difficult to express, as it is more abstract. It tends to deal with subject flow rather than line flow. Try to think of subjects with a common goal or destination. This photographic example shows a bunch of children around a police officer, except for one child who is directly addressing the viewer. Note the grouping of the children around the policeman, all sharing a common interest. To add contrast to the image, the photographer purposely had a counter-common fate, in this case, of the sole child. Next, we will discuss similarity. Just as it suggests, this theory deals with subjects that have common colors, shapes, sizes, etc. The brain likes to make connections within groups, so when this is put up front, the eye or brain is pleased. In this example, we see a bunch of drinking straws sorted by color. Note the relaxing feel this image gives, even though that there is busyness and clustering going on. That is because of the similar shapes and grouping of like colors. Finally, we'll be looking at proximity. Proximity is another theory that is somewhat abstract. It is a process by which your brain automatically gives size and scale to an object. This is something that the eye and brain can automatically do, given that there is a reference within the picture. Without a reference is where photos can become fun or confusing. Think of the cliché holding up the Leaning Tower of Pisa photo. In this example, we see some people standing at various distances or depths. Note how a 2D image cannot give us genuine depth, but our brain suggests that the men in purple are not twice the size of the women in the back, but that she is in fact further away. It is important to note that not all photos will just display one element of gestalt. In fact, most photos incorporate many combinations for a more interesting composition. And now, I would like you to take 30 minutes to do individual research on the gestalt principles covered, and view some more examples to get a better understanding for preparation for assignment paper 1. This concludes the lecture.